Bhaktivedanta Sai Maharaj Bhakti Namaskar Friends of Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Asi Gaura Bhakti Sri Radha Krishna Bhakti Sham Kundaratha Kundagiri Varam Vrindavan Jai Madhuradam Jai Namtam Jai Om Bhavani Jai Yamuna Mai ki Jai Tulasi Devi ki Jai Bhakti Devi ki Jai Samadhi Bhakti ki Jai Gaura Prabhupada all glory to the Samadhi 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 Namo Shivaya Krishna Shri Hare Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Devi Pachani Nirvisheshna Shri Maha So, as always, before class, we always read a little bit of the transcendental diary of my godbrother Harisuri Prabhu, who travels with his Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, August 1976 to October 1976. By Hari Swami. So Srila Prabhupada said in Vrindavan, in describing the Vedic educational system of training a person to work according to his varna, Prabhupada revealed an apprehension about the Gurukula. He's trying to start here. Naturally, a person born in a Brahma family is expected to become a Brahmin by qualification. That was the training. Generally, the sons of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, especially these two sects, up to Vaishya, they were trained up as Brahmanas. And Shudras were not interested. The door is open for everyone, but the lower class, except the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, they are not interested in becoming brahmacharis, or their parents are not interested. Just like we're going to open this brahmachari school or ashram, but I'm doubtful whether we'll get many children, because in this age people are interested to become Shudras. Nobody is interested to become a Brahmin. Technology means Shudra. Technology is not the business of a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya. No, just like blacksmith, goldsmith, carpenter, craftsman, these are technology. They are meant for the Shudras. Brahmanas, they are to be trained up to become truthful, how to become control of the senses, how to become simple, how to become tolerant. In this way, Kshatriyas, how to become strong, stout, brave, not going away when there is a challenge, to possess land, to rule over, Ishvara Bhavas, and charity. The charity was given by the Kshatriyas. Even there are instances that Mohammedan rulers in this country, they also gave in charity land and temples in Vrindavan. There are many instances. Aurangzeb gave some land. Jahangir gave some land. There is still one temple. It was constructed by Jahangir. And the other side of the Yamuna, there's a village called Jahangirpura. That village was given to the Brahmanas for maintaining the temple. So charity, that is Kshatriya business, and perform yajnas. These are Kshatriya qualifications. The second verse, let's stop here. This is Prabhupada is explaining very nicely the system of the ashrams, varnas, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. But at the same time, the Bhagavad says that it's age of Kali Yuga. Basically, everyone is born as a Shudra. So in former times, the education was different. You didn't send, not all the children were sent to the same school. But from the very beginning, the teacher or the Brahmana would detect the qualities of the children. And they were educated according to their nature, to their guna. So then Prabhupada says here, this movement of Prabhupada, in this case he speaks about the Gurukula that he was trying to start in Texas at that time. So he said that this movement is actually meant to create Brahmanas. Brahmanas, at least. It says that of the Varnas, the Brahmanas are the head. The arms are compared to the Kshatriyas. The digestive system is compared to the Vaishyas, and the legs are compared to the Shudras. Yeah. And every part, Prabhupada many times emphasized, every part is important. Even though the head is the most important part. Just like sometimes somebody has an arm amputated or a leg also, or they don't have two legs or something like that. Or they have problem with the digestive system. But as soon as the head is not well, is not proper, and is not sane, everything becomes useless. So as long as the head is there, things can go on. So Bhagavad many times said that nowadays, the so-called intellectuals and philosophers and scientists and professors and all this, they're actually not in the category of Brahmins. Why? Because they don't have the proper education. And Prabhupada also says here that the brahmachari education, very important education, brahmachari education. That means from the beginning of their lives, the children are practicing austerities. And Prabhupada many times Prabhupada mentioned that for children to practice austerity is joy. Just like sleeping on the floor like that, or getting up and taking a cold shower like that. They start to appreciate, to love this. And then also they send out a bag. When you go out to beg, you have to adopt a very, very humble attitude. You cannot go in like that, Nobody will give you any charity. So, and when the brahmacharis would collect during the day, they came back to the ashram of the guru or the brahman, and they would give everything they collected to the teacher, to the brahman. And it's probably mentioned that sometimes, the guru, he would, but most of the charity was actually bhoga, like dal, rice, fruit, vegetables like that. And so when the brahmacharis came back to the ashram, they gave everything in to the guru, not to the teacher. And it would be cooked like that. And then the teacher would call every disciple, what is that? Shuddha, what is Shuddha? Disciple, every disciple to take prasad. And then at times, maybe he forgot somebody to call somebody by name, and that child wouldn't protest, would fast if the guru didn't call him to eat. They wouldn't make a demonstration or scream or become angry like that. This was just the proper education. And what was the most important item in education, that the children would learn how to serve. This is very difficult for as long as you're a child, it's easy to learn. Because when you're in an inferior position like that, and everyone is older like that, you're supposed to accept them, like that, have respect for them. But I've heard that now, also in Germany, America especially, the children are becoming more and more puffed up. It's actually dangerous for the teachers sometimes. They attack them with weapons even, like that. Anyway, so the proper education, Vedic education, was to help the children to become humble and adopt a service attitude. And this service attitude is a requirement to become a successful person. Not like in America, they have the saying, everyone wants to be number one. More rich, more influential, like that. And that's exactly opposite. That might be something for the kshatriyas in this, because kshatriyas have to control. They have to learn how to manage properly, and they're supposed to have certain qualities, like heroism, for example, is a quality of the kshatriyas. When there's a good reason to fight for the right cause, they're inspired. They go there with the risk of losing their own life, Actually, it says in the Shastra, when a Kshatriya would lose his life, it was actually beneficial. It was beneficial. He would go to the higher planets, take birth on the higher planet, complying with his duty, accepting his responsibility to protect others. So this was actually a function of the Brahmanas were supposed to protect people by educating them, by giving knowledge. The Kshatriyas were supposed to protect indefensive groups in the society, like the children, the ladies, the old people, all the cows and the Brahmanas. They were actually meant in the first place. Brahmanas and cows were the most important to protect in society. Nowadays, in those parts where I normally preach, where I normally live, there's many beggars and many poor people. And sometimes you see very old ladies or very old men, and they knock on the door, they collect in front of the, how you say, Ampel, what is that in English? In front of the stoplights. And they knock on the door, on the window, and asking for donations. And it always makes me think that this is actually a symptom of bad government. This is bad government. Because these old people are supposed to be properly protected. And then the children are supposed to be properly, the ladies are to be properly protected. And the Brahmanas, the cows, There's so many, when you hear Srila Prabhupada's classes, often Prabhupada mentioned this, about the importance of the protection of the cows. Should be properly protected. Anyway, and then the Vaishyas, they're also supposed to protect the cows. Like the Brahmanas are supposed to protect people by teaching them, by giving them knowledge. Kshatriyas, by their strength, they should be protected indefensive groups. And the Vaishyas also protect the cows. And the Shudras are supposed to assist. Like in India, still, it's common. As soon as people have a little, Vaishya, little money, they have servants. Isn't it? In the same house. Now we have a few servants. And these servants are, when you watch them, they never step over, step over certain lines. They're always respectful, they're always ready to serve like that. And Prabhupada mentioned that the servants would be so nicely trained that when the master becomes old, they stay by his side so they still serve him. Not that they take advantage of cheating him or something like that. Anyway, so this is a very important system. This is actually a system that helps us become purified, become elevated in life. Like when the Shudras dealing properly, he will take a higher birth after that. And the Vaishyas also like that. They go, progressing life after life by following the Vedic principles, by following the Dharmic principles, accepting their svabhava, their position. Normally I speak Spanish, so sometimes I say something in Spanish. Any question? No? Yes?
But how can we practically take part in protecting the cows?
That's one thing that Prabhupada wanted us to do. Yeah. First you have to have a farm. It's very difficult to protect the cows actually, for us, Westerners, because we're not used to live on farms. Most of us are used to live in cities, where everything go in like passion, a lot of passion and ignorance. We have seen sometimes when let's go to our farms, they can't stay very long. Because they need this passion. And everything related to the cows is slow, is regulated. You have to get up at a certain time to milk the cow like that. If this is not happening, the cow will start mooing calling you like that. Wow, oh, oh. Anyway, also when you live on the farm, you do agriculture. The plants grow very slowly. It's not that you have a result immediately. They say when you're under the motive, under the influence of more passion, you want results quick. Like that. You'll be very impatient. But when you live on a farm, you have to base yourself on the mood of goodness. And we have seen this. And there have been many problems in the past. That somebody was taking care of the cows, and he left, and the cows also need somebody to get used to. They need something that they can relate to. Like that. And that's why I remember when we got a farm in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, our GBC hurricanes told us, don't get cows. And people were offering us cows. They wanted to give us cows free, but he forbid us to get cows because he saw that we were not in condition to actually take care of them properly. Anyway, so is that okay? Yeah.
Now in our society, they have very strict rules for farms.
Yeah.
You have to have a business plan.
Sorry?
You have to have a business plan. You have to be ready to serve for 15 or 20 years, the lifespan of the cow, like a child.
Yeah.
Very strict rules now.
Yeah, no, in the past it was not so strict. And I even saw that sometimes when they have too many problems with the farms, they sell them, because they can't manage them properly.
Terrible.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to Srimad Bhagavatam. Sorry to extend it so much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Which text is it?
Caitanya Caritamrita, Madhya 6, 169.
169, okay. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jivera Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Jivera Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Mayavadi Vasya Sunil Haya Sarvanasha.
Mayavadi Vasya Sunil Haya Sarvanasha.
Jivera Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Jivera Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Mayavadi Vasya Sunil Haya Sarvanasha.
Mayavadi Vasya Sunil Haya Sarvanasha.
Jivera Nistaralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Jivera Nistaralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanasha.
Mayavadi Vasya Sunil Haya Sarvanasha.
Jivera Nistaralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Jivera Nistaralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Mayavadi Vasya Shunile Haya Sarvanasha.
Mayavadi Vasya Sunil Haya Sarvanasha.
Jivira Nistaralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa.
Jiverani Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa
Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanasha
Mayavadi Vasya Sunilaya Sarvanasha.
Ladies, die Damen.
Jiverani Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa
Jiverani Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa
Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanasha
Mayavadi Vasya Sunilaya Sarvanasha.
Nistaralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa
Jiverani Staralagi Sutra Kaila Vyasa
Mayavadi Bhashya Sunilaya Sarvanasha
Mayavadi Vasya Sunilaya Sarvanasha.
Jiveda,
Jiveda
of the living entities.
of the living entities.
Nistara,
Vistara
deliverance.
deliverance.
Lavi,
Lavi
for the matter of.
for the matter of
Sutra,
Sutra
the Vedanta Sutra.
Vedanta Sutra
Kaila,
Kaila
mate.
Mate
Vyasa,
Vyasa
Srila Vyasadeva.
Shilavyasadeva
Mayavadi,
Mayavadi
of the impersonalists.
of the universalists.
Vasya,
Vasya
commentary.
commentary.
Shunile,
Shunile
of, no, if hearing.
if hearing.
Haya,
Haya
becomes.
becomes
Sarvanasha,
Sarvanasha
all destruction.
all destruction.
Translation. Srila Vyasadeva presented the Vedanta philosophy for the deliverance of conditioned souls. But if one hears the commentary of Shankaracharya, everything is spoiled. Purport of Srila Prabhupada. Factually, the devotional service of the Lord is described in the Vedanta Sutra. But the Mayavadi philosophers, the Shankarites, prepared a commentary known as Shariraka Bhasya, in which the transcendental form of the Lord is denied. The Mayavadi philosophers think that the living entity is identical with the Supreme Soul, Brahman. Their commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra are completely opposed to the principle of devotional service. Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore warns us to avoid these commentaries. If one indulges in hearing the Shankari Shariraka Bhasya, he will certainly be bereft of all real knowledge. The ambitious Mayavadi philosophers desire to merge into the existence of the Lord, and this may be accepted as Chaluja Mukti. However, this form of mukti means denying one's individual existence. In other words, it is a kind of spiritual suicide. This is absolutely opposed to the philosophy of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga offers immortality to the individual conditioned soul. If one follows the Mayavadi philosophy, he misses his opportunity to become immortal after giving up the material body. The immortality of the individual person is the highest perfectional stage a living entity can attain. So we are here in the middle of a discussion between Samabhavacharya and Chaitanya. Samabhavacharya was the Pandit, the teacher at the court of Pradamarutra, King Pradamarutra in Puri. And he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the first time in the temple of Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came into the temple. He was a young sannyasi, he had just taken sannyas, he was very young. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also described as extremely beautiful. He was so nice, so beautiful. Young lad. No, he was only 24 years old. It was very uncommon for a person to take sannyas at that age. actually, this the Vedic system is that one first is properly educated as a brahmachari. Then, and with this education, one enters in the grihastha ashram. And when the children are grown up, lead their own life here, the parents dedicate themselves again exclusively to spiritual life or devotional service. And then after a while, the husband and wife separate. Normally the lady, the wife goes back to her family, or not to her, but and is supposed to be protected by her sons, especially by the elder son. And the husband is supposed to, after Vanaprastha, is supposed to take sannyas. And I heard that actually these 4 orders are limited by the varnas. The brahmanas are supposed to pass through all 4 ashrams. And the kshatriyas are supposed to only go to vanaprastha. And the vaishyas, grihastha and education brahmachari. And the shudras, just family life. Anyway, so, coming back here to Samabhadacharya, was a very senior teacher. It's mentioned in the Shastra, in the Chaitanya Caritamrita, it was famous all over India, and from different parts, and students would come from all parts of India. He was very famous, very extremely learned. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas, he ended in the temple in Puri, and he was very overcome by transcendental ecstasy, seeing the deities of Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, like that. And he fell to the ground. And when he fell to the ground, immediately the guards came, and they wanted to throw him out, get him out of the temple, because they were thinking he was just sleeping there in front of the altar. And when Samabhadacharya had already seen him come in the temple, he was very surprised to see such a beautiful sannyasi, and at the same time he felt compassion. How will this young sannyasi survive his ashram, remain as a sannyasi, he is so young and so beautiful? So when he saw that the guards were coming to pick up Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and throw him out of the temple, he immediately interfered. And because he was a very important person at the court, of King Prataparudra, they accepted it to take him where he wanted to take him. And he actually took him to his home. And then in the meantime, all the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also appeared in the temple. And they heard about this very special thing that had happened. This was the biggest rumor at that time. Everyone was speaking about the young, beautiful sannyasi, how he had fallen down in front of the altar, and how Samabhadacharya had taken him home. And so they all went, because they had experience with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How sometimes he lost his external consciousness, being in transcendental ecstasies like that. So they knew how to revive him, how to get him back to external consciousness. So they went there, and they made a big kirtan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to life. Like we did in Amsterdam, I guess so. Anyway, so then Samabhadacharya offered him to educate him. And he offered him to educate on the basis of the Vedanta Sutra. Anyway, so he spoke to him for a long time, 7 days he spoke. And he was very surprised that this young sannyasi would ask any questions. Because he was used to, when he taught this sophisticated philosophy to his students, he was accustomed that they would ask questions. And then he asked him if he had any questions. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said something very important. He said, actually, I know the Vedanta Sutra, you know, but I don't understand your commentaries. You know, your commentaries are just like the cloud, like clouds covering the sun. The Vedanta Sutra is like the sun. I know the Vedanta Sutra, but your commentaries are like the clouds covering the sun. And then so he, then Sarvadacharya asked him, okay, let's hear your commentary. And then he started giving his commentary. And we right in the middle of this commentary that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave about the Vedanta Sutra. So he's, Prabhupada mentioned here in the purport that actually the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us an instruction that we shouldn't read the Shalita Bhasya, the commentary written by Shankaracharya about the Vedanta Sutra, because we become completely covered over. Because his commentary, Shalita Bhasya, is an impersonal commentary to the Vedanta Sutra. And it's interesting that actually the Vedanta Sutra, Prabhupada mentioned in the past, sometimes the impersonalists will say that we don't have any commentary to the Vedanta Sutra. But actually, when Sri Vyasadeva compiled as an ultimate conclusion of what he had written before, the Vedanta Sutra, he was actually unsatisfied after compiling all this Vedic literature. And then he gave the Vedanta Sutra, and he was not satisfied. So then Narada Muni appeared, his spiritual master appeared, and he told him, yes, you're not satisfied because you haven't written a proper commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Because Vedanta Sutra is very difficult to understand. It's sutras, like it says sutra. These are very compressed verses, very difficult for ordinary people to understand. So he told him, now you write your commentary, and he wrote his commentary from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refuted all the commentaries he had given, his impersonal interpretation. And as we know, well, I have repeated this story several times. There are so many new people who were not present for our last Chaitanya Caritamrita discourse or classes. So, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started giving his commentary, and when Sarvabhadracharya heard all these commentaries, he couldn't believe it. These commentaries were so clear. Then he started thinking, wow, this cannot be an ordinary person. This has to be Sri Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. And actually, Vyasadeva is also the incarnation, Shakti Avisha avatar of the Supreme Personality of God. So he started recognizing, I said, this was not an ordinary person. This was a Supreme Person. And as he continued hearing, he fell at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And not only that, I mentioned that before also, he immediately started compiling 100 verses glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Can you imagine? 100 verses right there, in perfect Sanskrit. 100 verses. And he became a very special follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he started also preaching because he had been very influential. So when he had experienced a change in heart, he became a very, very special Vaishnava. Started preaching, and many people also became, by his influence, also became Vaishnavas. All these Mayavadis who had followed him before, they were also transformed into Vaishnavas, like that. Anyway, so we normally go on with different verses here. This is our way of reading the Caitanya Caritamrita. Harinama Vyasya Sutrera Samata Achintya Shakti Ishvara Jagat Rupe Parinata. The Vedanta Sutra aims at establishing that the cosmic manifestation has come into being by the transformation of the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Short Purpose. For further explanation of Parinamavada, refer to Adilila, 7th chapter, verses 121 to 133. Maniyaicha avikrite pashe behema vada jagadrupahaya ishvara tamu avikara. The touchstone, after touching iron, produces volumes of gold without being changed. Similarly, the Supreme Person of Godhead manifests himself as a cosmic manifestation by his inconceivable potency, yet he remains unchanged in his eternal transcendental form. There's a nice example of power. Verse actually there's a touchstone. And in German, der Stein des Weisen. You ever heard that before? Stein des Weisen?
Bei Harry Potter gibt es das.
Huh?
Bei Harry Potter gibt es das.
Philosophischer Stein.
Ja, aber das ist ja auch ein Missbrauch des Begriffs. Das ist ein sehr wichtiger philosophischer Begriff. Ja, dass Gott nämlich immer gleich bleibt, obwohl er so viel schafft. Will er nicht wegnehmen. Even though God creates so many things. Actually, everything is expansion of his energy. Unlimited manifestations come from this cause. But he doesn't change. Whereas the philosopher, the Mayavadis, is that God, the Brahman, falls down because actually they say that we are all Brahman. Actually, originally we are impersonal. But when we fall into Maya, we manifest bodies, individualities like that. Yes. But then Parvati said, so how? What is the reason that we actually fell? If we were part of the, how did we become personal? The explanation, the answer is given in the Shastra. That actually the origin, the cause of all causes is not impersonal, but the cause of all causes is personal. And the realization of the impersonal aspect of God is as a first step. Prameti paramamiti bhagavan iti shakite. It's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that it is said, when the Bhagavatam said it is said, it refers to Veda. That the Supreme is realized in different steps, like the impersonal Brahman, which is compared to the effulgence and the heat of the sun, impersonal energies. And then the next thing, what is this? This is actually the Sat aspect of Satchit Ananda, the Supreme, the truth, the ultimate truth. Is Satchit Ananda, eternal knowledge and bliss. These are the qualities of Krishna. And we also have these qualities, but these qualities at the moment are covered over by our body and by all this. Anyway, so the sunshine and the heat is compared to the impersonal aspect of God. And then the localized aspect, Paramatma, Satchit, eternity and knowledge. That means the Paramatma form of the Lord is manifested within the heart of all living entities. And not only within the living entity, in every molecule, how's it in English? Molecule? Atom, yeah, the atom, right. In every atom, the Paramatma is also present. Savasachaham vidi sanivishtos with Yabhyam And Krishna says that he is present in the Hriday, in the heart of all, every living entity. And from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. This is the function of the Paramatma. Upadashna Anuman. He's present as a witness within our heart and as sanction. Upadashna Anuman. He gives permission. Anyway, but Satchit Ananda, the bliss aspect, is present in Krishna. It's the Supreme Personality of God. Actually, Krishna is always enjoying. He's never suffering. He has no problem, doesn't know all these problems that we have here in the material world. Just like taking birth, getting old, what is that?
Sick.
Birth, death, old age, and disease, sickness. I have a problem again with my husband. Got the throat and all that. And then old age. Watch out, you also get one. With luck, you're getting old. You have more years, but actually old age, there are just so many problems. Everything becomes less and less. You hear less, you see less, you can eat less, everything. And also, normally in society, it is that people lose respect for the old people because they're becoming weird. Their memory is that they might even not recognize you after some time. They have difficulty in speaking, remembering, they lose their memory like that. Anyway, and death. Death is the biggest calamity. And actually Power said the whole life should be used as a preparation for death. This is the last exam, like in high school, to make your abitur or something. Everything points at that test. In the same way, death is the most important test, exam. And how can you be successful in death? By what? What do you say?
Remember Krishna.
Huh?
Remember Krishna.
By remembering Krishna. That's it. Because actually, this test is the ground for your next life. According to the consciousness, according to what you remember at death, according to the state of your consciousness at the time of death, this consciousness forms the base of the new body, the new life form. This is actually, this is what life is, human life is meant for. Compared with other life forms, this is actually the most important form, amongst the 8,400,000 forms of life, species of life. Why is this? Because it helps us to become free from birth and death. So if we're successful, if we remember, I remember one devotee, one god brother of mine told me about once that his, when his mother became very, very sick, he moved into her home to take care of her. And then he told me about when she was about to give up her body, she asked him all of a sudden, "So where's your Krishna?" And then Power said she went back to Krishna. She remembered Krishna at the time of death. And that's the value of good sangha, of good association. Krishna had a son who was a devotee. Actually, it says in the Shastra that when you become a devotee, that so many generations before and after are also benefited. Yes. Sometimes the parents or the family members don't understand what's going on, or they think that devotees have become weird or something like that. But actually, the best thing you can do for your family is to become a devotee, to become Krishna conscious. Because all members of the family also benefit. That's actually very important. We shouldn't think that, well, I have some responsibilities still like that. Actually, most important is that you progress in Krishna consciousness. I remember, anyway. So, let's continue, and there's a question or something? Oh, the purport of Srila Prabhupada. According to the commentary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the purpose of the Janmalya verse in the Vedanta Sutra is to establish that the cosmic manifestation is a result of the transformation of the potencies of the Supreme Person of God. The Supreme Lord is the master of innumerable eternal energies, which are unlimited. Sometimes these energies are manifested and sometimes they are not. In any case, all the energies are under his control. Therefore, he is original, energetic, abode of all energies. The common brain, in the conditioned state, cannot conceive of how these inconceivable energies abide in the Supreme Person of Godhead. How he exists in his innumerable forms as a master of both spiritual and material energies. How he is a master of both manifest and potential powers, and how contradictory potencies can abide in him. As long as the living entities within this material world, in the condition of illusion, he cannot understand the activities of the inconceivable energies of the Lord. Thus, the Lord's energies, though factual, are simply beyond the power of the common brain to understand. But the atheist philosophers or the Mayavadis, being unable to understand the inconceivable energies of the Supreme Person of Godhead, imagine an impersonal void. Their imagination is only the counterpart of materialistic thinking. Within the material world, there is nothing inconceivable. High-thinking philosophers and scientists can tackle the material energy, but not being able to understand the spiritual energy, they can simply imagine an inactive state, such as the impersonal Brahman. This is simply the negative side of material life. By such imperfect knowledge, the Mayavadi philosophers conclude that the cosmic manifestation is a transformation of the Supreme. Thus, they must necessarily also accept the theory of the illusion of the Supreme, Vivarta Vada. However, if we accept the inconceivable potencies of the Lord, we can understand how the Supreme Person of God can appear within this material world without being touched or contaminated by the three modes of material nature. From the Shastras we learn that there is a stone or jewel called a touchstone that can transform iron into gold. Although the touchstone turns iron into gold many times, it remains in its original condition. If such a material stone can maintain its inconceivable energies after producing volumes of gold, certainly the Supreme Person of Godhead can remain in his original Satchit Ananda form after creating the cosmic world. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10, he acts only through his different energies. Madhya Yakshena Prakriti, Krishna directs the material energy, and that potency works in this material world. This is also confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.44. Shristi Shikti Paraya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibhakti Durga Vishanu Rupamati Yasya Chastadesa Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Durga Shakti, material energy, acts in the direction of the Supreme Person of Godhead and the universal creation, maintenance and destruction are being carried out by the Durga Shakti. Krishna's direction is in the background. The conclusion is that the Supreme Person of Godhead remains as he is, even though even though directing is energy, which makes the diverse cosmic manifestation work so wonderfully. Yeah. Inconceivably. Yes, it's amazing. You know. Like by my own experience, sorry to bring this up. Almost every day I go walking to stay alive. And sometimes I walk through places where there's a lot of vegetation. And now it's all fresh and green. And it's amazing. Krishna is actually the greatest artist. You know, all the so-called artists are just copying Krishna. You know, they paint and have some fruit, or they paint a mountain, or they say some other things. Actually, Krishna is the original artist. He created the original. And it's so incredibly beautiful how Krishna creates. You know, all these different plants, all different, perfectly designed. Then they have all these flowers, you know, everywhere. You know, then after a while they produce seeds and fruits and vegetables like that. Anyway, so you know, as one becomes more and more Krishna conscious, one starts appreciating Krishna's creation. And one sees everything related to Krishna. You know, the scientists try to convince that everything is casual. You know, it's an accident or casual everything. You know, but actually not. It's just the manifestation of the supreme artist, the supreme creator. Then Prabhupada told the story of, what is that called? Well, as in physics. Newton. Yeah, Newton. No, his discoveries were known as Newtonian physics. So he discovered a lot of laws, natural laws. And he was, actually when Krishnadas came the other day, the scientist who gave his lecture Sunday, remember? Yeah. He, in his book, he wrote a book, maybe someone also bought it. And there's also a part about Newton. And it's mentioned that Newton was actually, he had faith in God. And so he had a friend who was always, how you say, household, what is that again? Challenging. He was always challenging him. What God? Everything is casual and this and that. So one time this friend came, and Newton had made a small replica of the universe. The Earth, the moon circling around the Earth like that, the sun and all this. And the friend came in and said, "Who made this?" And Newton said, "Nobody." "What nobody? Somebody had to." And then he told him, "Look, this is just a small, insignificant replica of the universe. And you insist that somebody had made this. But this, look at the original. You know, this is also made by somebody, some brain, some intelligence behind all this." Yeah? But then, as we heard from Krishnadas, you know, in due course of time, the scientists all became atheists, more and more atheists. You know, in the beginning, there were still, you know, there were still scientists who were believing in God at the same time, with high respect for God and for His creation. Any question? Yeah.
I was just thinking, if the scientist thinks that everything is by accident, then they're also an accident. They themselves are an accident, and they're part of it. So they should just shut up. They can't say anything anymore because it's just an accident.
You know what Krishnadas explains, and he explains also in his book, that actually scientists are also kind of evolution in their realizations. Yeah. Before they were saying everything was just coming by Big Bang, you know? Matter was the cause of everything. Yeah. Then more and more they how say that, advanced, so to say. And then he says, now they say that the cause of everything is energy, potency, energy. And energy is not coming out of itself. And they also come into the conclusion, actually there must be something, some energy there, something like consciousness or something. And this is was interesting. They also had this conception that everything came from the original soup. And Paul always says, like, who cooked the soup? Who cooked the soup?
Nobody.
All the soups are cooked by somebody. Yes, anything else? We just continue. Yeah.
My attention caught that actually Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was able to recognize.
Sorry?
That Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was able to recognize, to accept their the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Does it show us something? I mean, nevertheless he was a sannyasi, but still he could see and accept it. What does it mean for us? What should
We take advantage also. By associating with devotees, especially we are very much blessed by Shtapauga. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Siddhi Hoy. It says association with devotees, Lavamatra, a fraction of a second. This comes from Kapila, from third canto. Where he gives the time calculations and all this, And he said, Lavamatra, just a moment, like a fraction of a second association with devotees, you can become successful. Sarvasiddhi, I just read it a few days ago. Sarvasiddhi actually means be successful. Sarvasiddhi, when we hear Sarva Siddhi, mystic powers, and Sarva is all, Sarva Siddhi, then power translated as successful. Anyway, so it's very important, the association with devotees. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very special association. And personalities like Sarvabhaumacharya were not ordinary persons. When Krishna comes, he also sends his servants to the material world to help to assist him in his pastimes. So these personalities are, there's a book, I have it in my library there, where who's who. It is called who's who. Who in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna's associate before, when Krishna came. So Sarvabhaumacharya, I don't remember, but he was such a special person. Like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they were actually gopis. Their real identity in the spiritual world were gopis.
Gauradesh.
Huh?
The book is Gauradesh.
Yeah, Gauradesh. You have that too? And have a book or have a computer?
No, book.
A book, yeah.
I brought from India this time.
Yeah, I got it as a gift from Sachinanda. Anyway, so these personalities, these devotees, intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were not ordinary persons. Like it says when Krishna comes, what is that? Krishna Vanam Krisha Krishna Sangupangasta Parshadam. Sangu. The eternal associates who come, his servants, his Astra also mentioned in the same verse, Astra, his weapons also come. Of course, Chaitanya, when Krishna came, he killed the demons. But it says when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, his Astra was different, was the holy name. So by getting them here the holy name, their consciousness will be transformed or purified. Purified. That's why it's so important to go on the street and chant Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he went on the street with the devotees. It says when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling, after he had taken sannyas, he traveled for 6 years without stop, always traveling. And he was always chanting with his devotees, with his associates. And it says that sometimes he appeared somewhere, and the news immediately distributed far and wide. And from far, people started running to see him come. They crossed the rivers, difficult rivers, mountains, forests, and then they arrived at the place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so many people would join. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would inspire them. He rose his hands, and getting into chant. And it says sometimes there were so many people, they didn't even see him because there were so many people. And when he left, normally when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the place, he disappeared. And he normally disappeared very, very early in the morning when everyone was sleeping. And then when they woke up and discovered that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wasn't there anymore, they sent people in all directions to look where he was, where he had gone. And they normally didn't find him. And then they started taking dust from the places where he had been active, where his feet had touched the floor. They came and took the how you say stout, what is it? Huh? The dust. He took the dust. And it's mentioned that sometimes they took so much dust, huge craters, were created. And there's a nice story with Vasudeva. Vasudeva, the leper, leprosy. Sagt man Deutsch Leprosy? Leper. Yeah. So he had, lepra, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just come to the place where he lived. Even though because he had lepra, he was living separate. Because lepra is a very,
Contagious.
Huh?
Contagious.
Very contagious. That's why the people who had lepra, they would be isolated somewhere. But when he heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared there, he started going, and at great difficulties he started approaching the place. And he said, it says that he had worms. The lepra creates, how you say, holes. Open wounds like that. And he had worms in these wounds. So it says that when some worm fell down, he normally got it up and put it back. How compassionate, huh? Yeah. Even though he was under so much difficulty. Anyway, so he very difficult for him to move, and finally he got to that place. And he was informed that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left. So he felt so much separation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he felt unconscious on the floor. And when this happened, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested himself in front of him. And they took him up, embraced him, lovingly embraced him. And Vasudeva, when he looked at his body, the lepra had gone. And not only that, it became extremely beautiful by having been touched by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So instead of feeling ecstasy or being very satisfied with this condition, he, as a very humble Vaishnava, he said, "Oh, my Lord, now that you have given me such a beautiful body, I will become proud." And that pride is a big hindrance, in spiritual life. Pride, we should learn how to be humble, like it said, straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, and always be ready to give respect to others. Expect respect. Anyway, so he expressed that mood. You know, he said, oh my Lord, now they have such a beautiful body. Now I'm going to become proud. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the same instruction that he had given the devotee before. This is a very important instruction. Prabhupada always used this verse when he's speaking about Guru, the conception of Guru. Now, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually given this instruction to everyone to become a Guru. Guru means the person who teaches about Krishna consciousness, makes people devotees like that. Anyway, so he said, if you preach Krishna Upadesh. Krishna Upadesh means repeating the instructions that Krishna gave. He gave Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. And he said, now then if you go Krishna Upadesh, you preach Krishna consciousness, whatever there is will not be an obstruction in your spiritual life. No, he had given the same instruction to, what was the name? I don't remember. Yes, anyway. Huh?
Rupa.
No. No, I'm looking for a specific person. There's no need to speculate. Anyway, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was invited to the home of that. I don't remember the name. And this devotee had presented, a desire to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had said, "Oh my Lord, for us grihastas, spiritual life often takes a less important position." I think. I've given the example when I spoke about that before. It's like saying sometimes you work something, you be in the kitchen or something, and you hear some music as background. You don't pay much attention because it's kind of background. Anyway, so this devotee told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our grihastha life, our spiritual knowledge or whatever spiritual tends to become a background only. And please allow me to give everything up and go with you. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, you stay at home. And he gave this verse, that you become a guru by preaching Krishna Upadesh. In this way, your household life will not be an obstacle. Will not be an obstacle. If you, in other words, if you preach, make arrangements for preaching, people get to know about Krishna. You distribute the books, or you preach, or you make programs, like that. Or you go on high now, like that. Yeah, then whatever you're in, it doesn't have the same importance anymore. Because it transcends the material conditions. Anyway, so Vasudeva got the same instruction from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we are already over time, sorry. Any more?
Kurma Brahman.
Yeah, Kurma. Yeah, Kurma. Thank you. Actually, this place where Kurma was living was Kurma Kshetra. Yeah, it's a holy place. I went there once. Yeah, it's a very beautiful place. They had a very nice temple of Kurma.
Where is it?
Huh?
Where is it?
South India.
South.
Yeah, South India. You know that place?
Yes.
You from there?
No.
Yeah, Kurma Kshetra. And very nice. The temple is very nice, all painted white. But the domes, these temples are very nicely labored. Yeah. I remember this temple was actually under the guidance of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Lakshmi Sampradaya. They have these big tilaks. There's the red line in the beginning and huge seekers, like the fashion nowadays. And they were very nice, they treated us very nicely. Yeah, actually they also, Prabhupada had gone there also. Yeah. The places where Prabhupada went. who were very, how to say, very appreciative. Okay, nog wat? Srila Prabhupada ki? Srila Prabhupada ki?